1 in 3 Aussies will need blood at some point in their life. Almost 28 million Aussies, about 10 million are eligible, but only 3% of the population donate.
Inspired by a personal story of his own, Simmo Braun knows the statistics and is passionate about making a difference, just one donation at a time. He's a bloody good human, heading up the Bloody Good Tour, an initiative that will see him and his 3 young children circumnavigate Australia over 12 months in a caravan, visiting every single Australian Red Cross lifeblood donor centre, all while raising awareness and working to increase the level of blood donations. So sit back, listen as he shares his story, as well as his passion for wellness and well-being in our communities.
You can do up to 27 donations a year for plasma or 4 donations a year for whole blood. So now's the time. Let's donate and feel awesome in doing so. We will start this wellbeing movement for Australia.
Simmo, welcome to Share.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having us.
Mate, it is bloody good to have you on, and looking forward to diving into what you've got going on and get a little bit about your story and what's inspired you to do what you're doing at the moment. But would love to start by, what's your story?
Yeah, it's a long story, unique like every other person out there. I guess the biggest thing for me is I've lived a good life, right? I've really enjoyed my life. But for so long, I was just on this treadmill, right? Do more, have more, right? Work really hard, try, spend as much time with the kids and partner as you can, and run here and run there and do all that. And last year, a couple of the main pillars of my life kind of got knocked over. I had some challenges, and caused me to actually pause and take stock and actually consciously decide what I wanted to do. And, through that process, I decided that it's, I want to be more. Instead of just always doing and racing, I want to jump off that treadmill. And through that process, in those challenging times, I would still donate plasma every fortnight, something that I would keep doing. And that act of doing something for someone else really drew me out of like a negative headspace that I was in. I was like, wow, this thing's really powerful. And, I love donating blood and plasma. I feel so good about it. And I thought this is something that I really need to share with Australia, right? That doing good feels good, that you don't need to, disrupt or complicate your life to contribute in a meaningful way.
Yeah. And where did you grow up, Simmo?
So I've grown up all around Sydney. I spent a lot of time mostly in South Sydney, in the Shire area. But most recently, we've just left from Central Coast.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. And you mentioned obviously a couple of pillars fell over. Can you share some of the challenges that you've been through that's kind of, pivoted you to where you are today?
Yeah, we have had some health challenges with the kids, relocated for work. The kids' mum and I uncoupled in the middle of last year. And that was around the time as well as a restructure at work going on. And they were sort of, looking for me to take on a bigger role, which would have involved more travel, more time zones, more people, quite a bit more work. And so I was forced to make a decision, about which path I was going to take. I decided not to pursue that avenue, and actually had a summer just with the kids at home. I became primary carer through some of the things that happened. And it was in that moment, I've got 3 kids, they're 8, 6 and 2, and the 6 and 8-year-old were at school, and I had a moment at home with the 2-year-old, and I realized, he was 18 months at the time, I hadn't spent any one-on-one time with him. It was such a busy life with 3 kids and the job, and just the joy of watching him potter around the garden with his little watering can, that really, filled my cup. And I thought, wow, this is so beautiful. And I bet there's a lot of other people that are missing, some of these beautiful moments.
Yeah, it's very true. Like for me, over the last kind of 5 or 6 years, stepping back from being a real estate agent and, kind of going through some struggles, but spending more time with my kids. I remember early on, the boys are now 15 and 17, our 2 youngest, but I remember sitting there, I was like, feeling resentful that I couldn't work, that I couldn't contribute, that I couldn't perform, and I couldn't do what I loved for many years. And then one day I just had this feeling of gratitude where I was like, how many dads get to spend time and more time with their kids in these teenage years, right? And for your kids are even younger, but how many dads or how many parents get that time in this kind of changing world, I suppose. And it is that gratitude that really kind of, and just stopping and going, yeah, this is living. You know, we think living is working and being on that treadmill. And I love the use of treadmill, because I use that as well, where it's kind of like, where's the stop button? And you're just looking for that tag to pull out and kind of for it to kind of come to a halt. But most of the time, the treadmill only comes to a halt when an event or something makes us stop, and we have to make a decision then, and we've got to change direction. And that's where, as you've done, have kind of made some choices moving forward that you may not have done if certain things hadn't have, kind of hit your windshield, I suppose, last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes you need life to hit that emergency stop for you to actually reassess. And you touched on a point there as well that you might be resentful, right, that you can't get to work. And I found myself, I might be at work, working hard on long days and being upset that I'm not at home with the kids or doing something. But then I'm at home with the kids and I'm getting upset that I can't work or do the things that I want. And so I'm always just projecting myself into this other space that I'm not, instead of just being present in that moment and enjoying that moment for what it is. And like, kids don't need that much. So the studies say that if you give them 15 minutes of autonomy where they can make decisions, do child-led play, and 15 minutes of some sort of love and engaging task, that's really all they need in a day. So if you can just be wholly present for a short amount of time, they'll benefit so much and develop well, but it'll fill your cup as well. You'll feel so good about it. And then you move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So talk to me about the decision. You've got 3 young kids, you're a single dad, and you go, let's jump in a van and go around Australia.
Yeah. Look, traveling is something I've been wanting to do for a while with them, but, we're always just too busy. There was always something else that was in the way. I've been donating blood for 25 years, and it became less of something I did and more of who I was. I just kept doing it. And after, having this emergency stop hit in my life and doing some deep work to work out who I am and what I'm about, I was having a regular donation at the Sydney Town Hall Blood Bank, and the nurse was talking to me about how many donations I've done and where I've donated at. I said, yeah, look, I've donated these centres. That was really cool. She just had this throwaway comment, you should do all of them. And I laid in bed that night and it echoed through my head, do all of them, do all of them. And I thought, you know what, there is something here. And, the mission of sharing blood donation and that doing good feels good is really important. But the other mission as well is to teach the kids to have courage, to dream big and do big stuff, but also to serve your community. And, the Bloody Good Tour was just born out of, this beautiful, beautiful consolidation of all these different elements of my life, the curious individual, the father, the blood donor, the passionate, community member. And this just came together into this crazy beast.
Yeah. And as you've gone through, you're about 3 months into the tour, is that right?
Yeah. We left 1st of August.
Yep. And you started where?
Central Coast. So we started just south of Newcastle. We spent 1 month racing up to Cairns, and we did 8 donor centres on that path, and 2 months on the way back down doing another 16 donor centres. So instead of doing one big lap of Australia, doing a couple of smaller loops, so I can bring the kids home, they can spend some quality time with mum, their rest of the family, grandparents. They're even going to have a day at their old school, do a bit of a show and tell, a bit of a presentation, and reconnect with their teachers and fellow students. And then we kick off on the next leg.
Yeah, brilliant. So talk to me about, what are some of the statistics that, people may not know around blood donation in Australia?
Yeah, okay. Look, I'll cover the most common ones first, because I think they're so pertinent and need to get hit home, that 1 in 3 Aussies will need blood at some point in their life. So everyone knows someone that either has needed it or will need it. Then that, of the, almost 28 million Aussies, about 10 million are eligible, but only 3% of the population donate. And something 3%. I learned last year, only 3%, right? So in a room of 100 people, 33 of them are going to need blood, but three of them only are donating to support all of those people. And one of the most shocking things which I learned last year, which really kicked this off, is that Australia actually imports about 40% of our blood and blood products because we don't have enough here. And I think, wow, we are exporting the joy of doing something good for your community. And I found that I was gobsmacked by that, and I guess that's part of the reason why I've got the really bloody good, phrase on this mission, because we're doing it for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah. When you look at the statistics, Simmo, do you know, has it been on a slide down of donation, or are we increasing, or has it just been pretty stagnant?
Yeah, good question. So the number of donations that we're actually getting each year is generally on an upward trend. But through science, research, technology, and innovation, they keep finding more uses for blood. So plasma, which is, one of the components which makes up just half of your blood, it's mostly the fluid. So it's mostly water, really, but it's got really good proteins and antibodies. They now turn that into 18 different products, which then can be used in over 50 different conditions. And so the number of uses for blood and blood products keeps increasing, so the demand increases as well.
Yeah, wow. That's awesome. So for someone that has never donated before, what do they need to know? What do they need to do to kind of donate?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to actually call Lifeblood, 131495, and you can have a chat to someone about your eligibility. You can take an online eligibility survey on the Lifeblood website. Look, generally, if you're aged between 18 and 70, over 50 kilos, and in moderate health, you don't need to be an athlete, you're possibly going to be eligible.
Yeah, perfect. And as you've gone through, obviously you're 3 months into the tour, talk to me about some of the conversations or stories you've heard along the way.
Yeah, it's actually my favorite part about this tour has just been connecting with people. I've met a lot of recipients, so people that need blood and blood products, and their stories are really touching. The process of donating blood needs to be clinical, right? We're talking about a medical products, right? So the quality standards are so tight. So it is a clinical product, and at the end of that, your blood is in a bag, and that's how it finishes. But to meet recipients and hear their stories about they've received immunoglobulins, which have been made from plasma, which come from my donation. And, that child that's now 6 was able to live past 4, and they now have a whole bright life ahead of them. Or someone that's in their 60s has actually now been able to live and see their grandkids and, support their kids with those grandkids. So the flow-on effect is incredible, right? It's not just the person that receives your product. It's their families, their colleagues, the communities. So that's been really inspiring. And actually, I've met so many donors as I go into the donor centers, and each of them's got such an interesting and unique story about why they donated, and sometimes even why they didn't donate in the past. I met a lady this morning that was petrified of needles. Always wanted to donate, but she was petrified of needles. And so for years, she just never did it. And a couple of years ago, she had her first child, and that process of being pregnant and giving birth is quite a process. And, it can involve needles, but there's other sorts of pain elements there. And on the back of that, she was like, well, if I can do this, then the needles are nothing. And she now donates quite regularly. She's done dozens of donations. And she feels so good about it. In fact, she and her partner, one of them donates while the other one sits with the kid in the refreshments area and has a chalky milkshake and cheese, and then they tag team in. And I thought, wow, if you say you're too busy or you're scared of needles, that story right there has got to make you do a double take and think about it.
Wow. So how many donor centers in Australia?
So there's 78, although I expect that by the time I finish, there'll be a couple more. Yeah.
There's
also, they also have the mobile unit. So they sometimes set up pop-up centers, like near shopping centers, and they have the mobile buses that operate in some areas. And those pop-ups and mobile buses will do whole blood donations.
Yeah. What's the impact, Simmo, that you want to make at the end of your tour? What do you want to see has made a difference in the blood donations?
Yeah, look, our ultimate goal is to save 100,000 lives. It's extremely ambitious to get there within the 12 months. But what I want to do is I want to start a movement of bloody good humans, right, that are rolling up their sleeves to do it for the community, for themselves, right, and for future generations. Uh, this whole point that doing good feels good is I think something that's overlooked. Get in there, take an hour to yourself, chill out, or meet a friend there, and save some lives while you're at it, and build that into your routine. Right, make it a routine, and be proud about it. Wear your heart on your sleeve that you're a bloody good human and contributing to the community.
That's awesome. And do they still provide the updates? Because I know there used to be like text updates that used to come through, or updates that said your blood's just being used somewhere.
Yeah. So sometimes they do that, and that makes it really special. Like we're talking about, it doesn't just finish in a bag and on a machine when you're done. That goes to a hospital, or at some point into someone's body, and sustains their life.
Yeah. So as you head through, it's going to take 12 months, you say?
Yeah. So 12 months gives us about 4 days per center. This first leg has been more dense. So we've been moving every 3 days, which in a caravan with 3 young kids is a hefty effort.
I take my hat off to you. Seriously, it is phenomenal. Talk to me about some of the challenges of van life that you've had in the first 3 months.
Yeah, well, before starting, I'd never towed anything before in my life. Never lived in a caravan or stayed in one. Never did distance education or homeschooling. But this was something I was so passionate about. Right, so that was enough to overcome that hurdle of getting uncomfortable, and we love it. We very quickly loved it. My first parking of the van took about an hour, and I actually parked up on the concrete slab instead of next to it for the awning to drop over it. But I'm not too proud to ask for help in the caravan park. And actually, Aussies are so good. Everybody's happy to come over and lend a hand or engage in a conversation. But didn't take too long before I've got that reverse park of a caravan down pack. And we've got a system now where when it's a travel day, everybody does their bit to get packed up, and we get on the road, and we all do our bit to set up.
Before we get back into the episode, from time to time you might have a burning question, a guest recommendation, a comment, or some feedback, which I always appreciate. If so, I'd love to continue the conversation after this episode, so let's connect. I'm easy to find, but the best place to engage and connect is on Instagram, @TheSteveHodgson. But that's enough from me. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah. And how are you connecting and planning forward with visiting communities?
So Lifeblood have been really good in organising a lot of collaborations in the donor centres. So with media, some of their Lifeblood teams and community members and recipients. So that's been quite good on that front. And then through my personal networking connections and social media, we're looking to outreach and collaborate with other people as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really, really good. Yeah, so obviously, van life, it would be interesting. It's not all work, it's a play as well. But how are you funding this? Obviously 12 months around Australia.
Yeah, it's a self-funded mission. I'm using the funds that are now liquid from the asset split with the kid's mum to do something good. And I borrowed some capital from some family to help, get the caravan and get the show started. We are looking for partners and other people to collaborate along the way. Big Four are quite interested in supporting the community. I mean, they help people get around the country, and so one of the things that I'm doing with them in exchange for discounted accommodation is wellbeing workshops in each of their caravan parks. So that's been an awesome way just to connect with people from ages 5 to 95, because there's something that everyone can take away, right? Even if it's just a refresher or reminder about these elements are important and things that you should consider. And actually, in most of them, we finish with an ice bath, which makes it a really memorable experience and something that they go home and talk about, but also trains that muscle that they can do hard things. I've done hundreds of ice baths, and it doesn't really get much easier.
No, it doesn't.
that's why it's so good, because you put yourself in a hard and stressful situation, you breathe through it, and then you know that you can face, toughness and stress in life.
So obviously you're on this 12-month tour, but what's the plan moving forward after that? What's your vision, post the 12-month, bloody good tour?
Yeah, look, it's to keep connecting people with their own well-being and that of their communities. So something that I've done prior to kicking off on this tour have been running workshops for well-being, mental health, high performance, but also coaching people to either discover their purpose or chase their purpose and go live their best lives.
Yeah, perfect. And what are some of the key things that you find? Like if you boil down to, if someone wants to increase their wellness and well-being in their life, what are some of those key things that you would recommend?
Yeah, look, it's very different depending upon where everybody's starting point is. I mean, first element being vitality. Are you sleeping enough? All right. So sleep, diet, and hydration, they're really paramount for the physical vitality. And then I would say around the mental health, are you connecting with friends? Are you expressing your emotions? Do you have an outlet, an opportunity for that? Do you engage in tasks where you can actually lose yourself and get in a state of flow? And whether that's, doing a puzzle or surfing, or for me, actually, I've just started learning piano because I'm not doing enough on this tour at the moment. And sitting at something and just being so intently focused on it and losing yourself in that space is really good for your mental well-being. And then you also get the sense of accomplishment and growth as you progress at that task. So there's a lot of elements there. Do a lot of mindset work as well, shifting identity beliefs.
Yeah, and that's really important. It's a big thing, as we see people, and I've gone through it, but as people step out of careers or things change that put them on a different path, and they have to kind of leave that life and that what they thought was their identity behind, and kind of find that new identity and find who they are, what they're meant to be doing, and what path they're meant to be walking.
Yeah. And that was a, really, it was first overwhelming, but then enlightening process for me, just over a year ago, discovering, what are my values? Who am I? For a long time in my life, I was number one. And then I had a partner, and then I had a few kids and an important job, and I wasn't even top 5 on my list. So through my life and my journey, I guess I lost myself. And it wasn't until I stopped and I had that opportunity to say, right, who am I? But also, who do I want to be? And how do I want to show up? And what impact do I want to make? And that was an exciting process. And what some of the toughest times I had was when I was in uncertainty. Right? What do I do about this job decision? Do I stay on or leave? Or, how do I manage the kids now? How do like sitting in a place of limbo or uncertainty, not knowing what was going to happen? That was one of the hardest parts. But the strongest exercise for me, and something that I do with people that I work with, is I set up a string line to help them make decisions. One is, who are you? What are your core values? What do you stand for? And the other end is, what is your purpose, right? Where do you get meaning from life? And once you have this string line here, the uncertainty just disappears. You go to make a decision. Does it sit on my line? If it's on the line, it's a yes. If it's not, it's a no. And life became so easy. So I came out of this, I guess, hole of uncertainty just with such amazing clarity. And it started becoming easy and energizing to make decisions.
Yeah, that's awesome. Simmo, when you think about your life, coming from the corporate world into what you're doing now, talk to me through your life. What does success mean to you now? But also, what did it mean to you, years ago?
Yeah, okay. I studied engineering and got into a graduate program in manufacturing. And I quite quickly worked out that I was more interested in the leadership side than the technical side of engineering. And engineers generally go one of two ways. And I worked really hard, like 60 to 80 hour weeks. And I loved it. And I love learning and I love making an impact. And, back then I had aspirations to be the youngest general manager of, whatever particular company I was at, and really grow the corporate ladder to increase my sphere of influence, to make a greater impact through that way. And, I had quite a degree of success with that. And, I changed a lot of roles. So I've worked in manufacturing and service and project-based businesses as well, in different operational leadership type roles. And over the last 20 years, success for me changed from delivering the business metrics to building individuals and teams. And as it happened, the business metrics got met when you focused on the people. So I then started getting more satisfaction from seeing people developing their own personal careers and lives, and building teams that were high performing. And so I always had that interest and passion in helping people and working with people. And it was a couple of years ago that I was called in by my brother to help him out on a workshop. And he's like, I need someone to give me a hand with this, a wellbeing workshop. He said, mate, I said, I haven't done one before, but, I run toolbox talks and board meetings and things like that. So, mate, you live this stuff. You live and breathe it. It'll be a walk in the park. And I did that. And it was with the Youth Leaders Program for Surf Lifesaving Australia. And I had this buzz for like a week and a half afterwards of like communicating that message of well-being and helping those kids. Some of the comments they were giving to me afterwards was just incredible. And so that was when I knew I needed to change my focus out of the corporate world and more into directly engaging with people in their own lives for well-being and achieving their own goals.
Yeah, that's awesome. And throughout your life, Simmo, who would you say has been your greatest teacher?
It's been myself. It's been making a lot of mistakes on the way, but it's also being able to stop and reflect. I have an evening practice of journaling where I reflect on what have I learned, what's really challenged me, and what am I grateful for. And I finish with gratitude because I like going to sleep positive. But reflecting on those challenges and working out how am I going to tackle that differently. There's been a lot of other people that have helped me a lot. My parents, even both my younger brothers. I have a coach that supports me a lot now and over the last year as well. But yeah, I think for everyone, the greatest teacher can be yourself if you're courageous enough to listen.
Yep. Love that. So for those that kind of want to jump on board, that want to support you, what are all the ways in which they can kind of, encourage more bloody good humans and obviously support the Bloody Good Tour?
Yeah, great. Thanks. So we've got, we're on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. All the handles are the Bloody Good Tour. The website's thebloodyggoodtour.com.au. So look, you can follow the journey, whether you're passionate about communities, life-saving blood donation, or even just family adventure. It's kind of a bit of a blend of all of those put in. So follow along and reach out to me to chat on those. And while our mission is to save lives through blood donation, the movement that I actually want to start is to get people thinking about their well-being and their communities. And they're actually, those two factors are really tied in together. Because when you serve a purpose greater than your own, like helping others and contributing to community, it's so good for your own mental health and well-being.
Yeah, perfect. And as people are kind of getting their blood donations, I'm sure you're getting people tagging you and sending you photos and, giving you those updates as well.
Yeah, I love that. And look, when you for all blood donors out there, you can actually join a team. They're called Lifeblood Teams. And this is a great initiative to drive, some competition, but also contribution to something big. So, they have the different state police all donate together to see which state does better. It's like a state of origin. But we've started a team called Bloody Good Humans. So when you donate, join our team, and then you're a part of this movement that's contributing towards saving 100,000 lives. And you can do that on the app or at the donor center there.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's awesome. So obviously you gave those details there. We're going to put the details on how to connect with you in the show reel notes as well when this comes out. And what's the location is there a location on your tour that you're most looking forward to?
No, not really. I have to say, I've been to places that I've never even heard of before, and everywhere that we've been has been amazing. And look, I'm not the only one with this sentiment. For me, this is a tour of every donor centre in the country. For the kids, it's the playground tour of Australia, and see each of the different playgrounds that we have out there and the beautiful beaches and rivers. There's been no favourite so far, and nothing really that I'm looking forward to. I think, all of them are great. Every donor centre is filled with great people, happy staff, people that willingly come in to contribute and roll up their sleeves. So it's been really uplifting. It's good to see this 3% slice of Australia that's doing such good. Love to get it to 4%.
Yeah, perfect. Well, let's do it. Now I know people can track where you're heading. I think you've got a map up online. Is that right?
Yeah, on the website, if you go into tour info, you can see the route, and we update that as we lock in the locations at the donor centres. So the next leg's just been put up as well. So you can see where we're going until the end of the year. Yeah,
perfect. And obviously people know that they can come and catch up with you in each location and say hi.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, say good day. Don't be shy. I love a chat. So please come share your story with me, and happy to talk to you about blood donation or well-being. One of my core values is curiosity, and something I'm so curious about is other people. We all live such unique and interesting lives, but so often you don't get to scratch the surface. You walk past someone in the street, everyone says, "How are you? How are you?" And the answer's busy or something like that. But come have a chat with me. Share your story. Love to know more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I've got to take my hat off to you. Traveling as a single dad in a van around Australia with three young kids is a big feat. But it's all for a good cause. You're a bloody good human, rustling up lots of other bloody good humans, and hopefully we can kind of increase those statistics and keep them moving in an upward to save more lives. And as you've got your goal of saving 100,000 lives, which as you say is ambitious, but ambitious goals, it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And look, if you break it down, and people do, you can do up to 27 donations a year. So for plasma, or 4 donations a year for whole blood. So you only need a very small percentage of Aussies that have been sitting on the fence for their whole life thinking, I should donate. Well, let me tell you, now's the time. Let's do it. Let's donate. Let's build a routine about it and feel awesome in doing so. And we'll get this. We will start this wellbeing movement for Australia.
That's awesome. That's a perfect message to end on. Grateful for your time, Simmo. Wish you and the kids all the best with your tour around Australia, and look forward to keeping track on the website, and also keeping track on all your social media channels, which we will share as well. And just keep impacting and keep being a bloody good human.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, mate.